Welcome back to the International Export Conference on China with Invest Northern Ireland. I'm Richard Seymour, Regional Director, managing a team of experienced business professionals across China. During the course of this session, we will outline how and where Invest Northern Ireland can help Northern Ireland companies to enter and succeed in the region. This session will focus on life and health sciences in China. During the course of this presentation, I'll be outlining how and where Invest Northern Ireland assists Northern Irish companies in the region and the range of services we provide to help your organisation enter and succeed in new markets. Invest Northern Ireland's role is to educate and inform you about opportunities to export and to provide financial and advisory assistance, both domestically in Northern Ireland and in market, to help companies explore new markets. We help you to make informed decisions, to understand if a market is attractive to you, and if your company has the capability and resources to export to new regions and locations. And once a decision to export has been made, we will support you in successfully executing your in-market strategy. We provide in-market business development activities, attending exhibitions, expos, workshops and conferences at key industry events throughout the calendar year, at which we represent Northern Irish companies, generate business leads, set up B2B meetings, and identify future sales opportunities through networking. Invest Northern Ireland in overseas markets provides a range of assistance to Northern Ireland exporters on the ground across 4 large territories globally, namely the Americas, India, Middle East and Africa, Europe, and of course, Asia Pacific, a region in which we are making significant investment. In Asia Pacific, we are divided into 5 regions: mainland China, which we are focusing on today in this export conference, Hong Kong, Northeast Asia, Australia and New Zealand, and Southeast Asia, including Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Our dedicated team of business development professionals work throughout Asia. In short, we are your local business partner overseas. Today, we have offices in mainland China, in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, with a team operating out of key embassies and consulates across the region. These trained professionals who will be sharing their expertise and insights in the next part of the seminar cover the following sectors: advanced manufacturing and engineering, education, food and drink, life and health sciences. We are currently exploring expanding this sectorial coverage in 2022 to include some form of specific coverage for the ICT sector. However, while our sector-focused strategy currently concentrates on these 4 main areas, we will react and provide assistance to all the inquiries we receive. Invest Northern Ireland also works in close collaboration with key organisations such as the NI Bureau to build long-term relationships, gain market access, while capitalising and creating opportunities with regional and provincial actors at the highest levels of government. So, how do we work with our client companies? In Asia Pacific and China, we have further developed the trusted business partner relationship adopted by INI in Northern Ireland to encompass the activity and the key relationships we have with you in markets in China. Most importantly, you, the client company, is the centre of this relationship. You will be supported by a locally based INI client manager and the international trade advisor from our Belfast headquarters or one of 6 regional offices. The China-based team, our China advisory support provider, and other in-market partners will all work with you to provide assistance, advice, professional business development activity, and active on-the-ground support. Let's take a closer look at the roles of the INI team that is here to help you. Your client manager, based in Northern Ireland, concentrates on key sectors, giving you unique industry knowledge and the confidence to expand your business. Our international trade advisors are similarly sector-focused with a track record of successfully helping Northern Irish companies export worldwide. While the in-market team deliver on-the-ground expertise, local knowledge, and industry connections across China, which are enhanced by strong government contacts and connections from the British Embassy and a consulate network in China. And finally, our ITA, BD team, and you, the client, will work closely with our trade advisory support or TAS provider to assist with research to fully inform your market entry and connect you to businesses via industry channels across the country. This experienced team work with a single focus in mind: to support you, the client. We provide in-market BD activities, attending exhibitions, expos, workshops and conferences at key industry events throughout the calendar year, at which we represent the Northern Irish companies, generate business leads, set up B2B meetings, and identify future sales opportunities through networking. We provide cutting-edge insights, including specialist IP knowledge on how to protect your brand, and give financial support to businesses seeking to export. Our world-class sectorial research or company-specific research allows you to make informed decisions and optimize your offering for China. Our extensive network provides clients with access to industry associations and regional influencers at the highest level. This suite of services is complemented by localized and nationwide marketing and communications delivered across multi-channels and multi-sector marketing for client companies. In addition, our in-market teams keep abreast of the impacts of policy changes and sectorial developments, enabling them to understand implications, risks, and in-market business opportunities. This knowledge is particularly critical in China, where the government plays a key role in sectorial developments and policy intervention. So, why consider exporting to China? The China opportunity is vast. China has a population of over 1.4 billion people with a burgeoning middle class and a $14.7 trillion economy in 2020. Notably, the only economy to experience growth last year. Indeed, despite one quarter of negative growth in 2020 during the pandemic, China went on to record a full year of growth, and economists in a recent Reuters poll expect an 8.6% GDP expansion in 2020. However, China remains a challenging market, ranking 31 out of 191 countries on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index. China is currently pursuing a dual circulation development strategy, aiming to drive domestic demand while strengthening China's capability to undertake global trade. A strategy, according to analysts, that will see China's economy become increasingly self-reliant while minimizing the effects of potential fluctuations in the global economy. State-backed enterprises and Chinese government involvement in industry may also create challenges for foreign businesses competing openly in individual markets. However, crucially, China is the world's second largest importer of goods and one of the world's fastest growing economies, which has been predicted to become the world's largest as early as 2028. Put simply, it is an economy in which opportunities abound, and we are helping you to capitalize on these opportunities in a number of ways. We do this through a journey of exploration, growth, and achievement. Invest and I has developed a methodology that we call a trade journey, a continuous stream of activity over a significant period of time, producing strong results. First, we educate you, our NI client company, about the opportunity and how to access that opportunity. Then we work hand in hand with single companies or cohorts of companies to make initial sales. We call that the nail it phase. Next, we enter the final phase, scale it, where we build on the achievements and successful case studies to scale your business geographically and expand into new sales channels. So, educate, nail it, and scale it. 3 simple phases, but as you can imagine, more complex to execute than they sound. For many of you, this may be your first steps into understanding China. In the next part of this conference, you will hear more about each of the sector-focused trade journeys. But let me take this opportunity to explain this 3-phase trade journey approach. In the first phase, to explore the market and sector in China, we invest time to understand Northern Ireland's sectorial capability, capacity, and existing export sectors. We meet with you, our Northern Irish companies, to understand your products and business model, to understand the challenges of each sector and the aspirations of your business. Our sectorially focused China team work with you and our domestic-based INI colleagues to evaluate your individual company needs and the needs of the sector in NI to conduct sector research, but also client-focused research designed specifically for you. Whilst our approach is not an exhibition-driven strategy, we do leverage exhibitions and trade shows. We think of these as another activity along the journey of exploration and business development. We commit resources and build key relationships with important local industry partners, experts and distributors, and perhaps most importantly, we are even at this stage focused on generating commercial outcomes for you, where we work with you to develop B2B meetings, both before, during, and after trade shows and exhibitions, and align Marcom's activity to this business development activity undertaken in China. With this continuous stream of activity and engagement, you are able to make an informed investment decision on the viability of China as a suitable export market. In short, we provide you with optionality. Obviously, this cannot be a one-size-fits-all strategy or process, but as we near the end of phase 1 and enter phase 2, where initial sales are generated, we consider and assist with distributor and dealer searches, customer and sales channel development, stakeholder engagement, market access issues, and can contribute to your go-to-market strategy. As your China business develops and you become more confident in your knowledge and commitment to the market, you will then start to think of scaling your China business. In this phase, again, Invest Northern Ireland has a strong role to play. Scaling businesses in China can involve expanding within China to other geographical areas, the development of multiple sales channels and product differentiation. Given the government policy-led environment in China and its recognition of its size, we continue to work with you to maintain and develop your stakeholder engagement and marketing and communication activity. The most important thing to take away is that Invest Northern Ireland has made the investment in markets and in Northern Ireland, has sector experts and a suite of services and the imagination required to use these to provide bespoke and sectorially driven support in a continuous stream of engagement that leads to commercial outcomes. And that concludes our introduction to Invest Northern Ireland in Asia Pacific and China. Should you have any questions or need further information, please do not hesitate to contact us. Our next speaker is in-market sector lead Monica Wren. Monica will be highlighting the importance of the China market, share her extensive work supporting Northern Irish companies in China, and provide details of future events for your participation. We hope you enjoy the session.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the session on Life and Health Sciences in China. My name is Monica Wren. I'm the Life and Health Sciences sector lead in Invest Northern Ireland China team. I have been working for Invest Northern Ireland for 7 years and providing advice to more than 50 Northern Irish companies regarding their business development in China. And during the last 5 years, it has been a great pleasure to work with Northern Ireland Life and Health Sciences companies, introducing their cutting-edge medical product and technologies to the Chinese market, helping them increase sales and supporting them day-to-day business operation in this vast yet fast evolving market. Today, I'm pleased to share some insights of this market and introduce how Invest Northern Ireland can support you, our Northern Ireland exporters in China. In becoming the second largest global life and health sciences market, China has recently both upgraded and normalized within the industry. It is estimated that with policy support, China's pharmaceutical market will reach approximately $12 billion by 2023, and it is fast becoming a leading global hub for drug innovation and development. The internationalization of Chinese companies and the standardization of its regulatory environment bring strong opportunities for Northern Ireland companies. At the same time, China is facing a number of health challenges, such as an aging population, increasing demand of high-level health services, and chronic disease management. In line with central government's goal of Healthy China 2030, the Chinese government plans to increase public and private hospital capacity and further develop third-party health institutions. In addition, impacted by COVID, the digitalization of the sector has been accelerated dramatically during last year. Diversified business models have emerged. For instance, in 2016, there were less than 100 internet hospitals in China, while today there are more than 1,000. Encouraged by central government, e-commerce, in particular online sales of drugs and medical devices, is becoming a very important new distribution channel. Moreover, AI and big data-enabled technologies are playing a vital role in terms of R&D, disease diagnostic, and connected health, complementary to the current public health system of China. In becoming the second largest global life and health sciences market, China has recently both upgraded and normalized within the industry. It is estimated that with policy support, China's pharmaceutical market will reach approximately $12 billion by 2023, and it is fast becoming a leading global hub for drug innovation and development. The internationalization of Chinese companies and the standardization of its regulatory environment brings strong opportunities for Northern Ireland companies. At the same time, China is facing a number of health challenges, such as an aging population, increasing demand of high-level health services, and chronic disease management. So the China life and health sciences market is fast-growing and is internationalizing. How does Invest Northern Ireland help you develop in China? This slide sets out how we support and assist you. First, education. We collect information from important sector gatherings in China, conduct sector-focused research, and deeply engaged with KOL to get Chinese market insights. The information is shared with you directly and through our spotlight webinars, LinkedIn articles, or Invest Northern Ireland newsletters. In China, marketing and communication is particularly important. Invest Northern Ireland has initiated focused marketing campaigns working with Northern Ireland companies that raises our brand awareness with specifically targeted audiences. So, for example, our in-market activities has a complementary marcom strategy and activation plan. We strategically select and participated in the most influential sector activities in China that align with Northern Ireland's life and health sciences exporters. Like most countries, the industry in China is largely policy-driven. As such, we maintain a productive relationship with key stakeholders, such as Chinese central and local governments, life and health sciences sector associations, large-scale state-owned medical and health groups. In addition, we support companies with market research carried out by our in-market team or through third-party service providers. For instance, we supported a Northern Ireland exporter with medical device registration, due diligence checks on potential partners, analysis of market opportunities, and the evaluation of business models. Last but not least, as a trusted business partner, we provide bespoke and individual support to our client-managed companies. We support new-to-market companies enter the Chinese market. We educate them and help them explore the market, and then to nail it to get their first sales. Secondly, we are committed to assist existing exporters to China expand their business into new regions or sales channels, in essence to scale their business in China. You may already export to US or EU market and are thinking about exporting to China. How do we put all the areas of support into play to help you tackle the Chinese market? We have developed a methodology called a trade journey, which is in 3 phases. First, exploration and education, which this slide explains. Then the nail it phase. And lastly, the scale it phase. Phase 1 is really about educating our client companies and providing them with opportunity to explore the market, to see if it is suitable export market for them. I guess for many of you, today's conference is perhaps the start of this phase of the journey. In the first stage, we evaluate market trends and opportunities, setting up the strategic focus of the journey. We have considered the China demand and the Northern Ireland supply in relation to companies' product and services, and identified medical devices, diagnostics, biopharma, and digital health as key subsectors to promote in China. Then, to further understand the market and its particular nuances, we developed the subsector research. Thirdly, to let more Northern Ireland companies benefit from our research and in-market opportunities, we frequently share information through Invest Northern Ireland's newsletter, Invest APAC, and my own LinkedIn account, and social media platforms. Also, we organize subsector-focused webinars and provide one-to-one assistance to individual companies. Exhibitions and conferences are important tools to build and strengthen the reputation of our sector in China, and from which to conduct real business development. However, we see exhibitions and events as only one part of a continuous stream of engagement with you. We have identified the most influential events to promote Northern Ireland products and services. More about this in subsequent slides. Invest Northern Ireland in-market team, together with HQ sector and trade team, work closely together to provide comprehensive one-to-one assistance to Northern Ireland companies, including market analysis, policy interpretation, and business development. We are part of your journey and part of your team here in China. Lastly, what works now may not work in the future. So we adjust our strategy to account for policy changes and market trends and challenges. Feedback from you, our clients, on what worked and what didn't, and examine the commercial results achieved. It is an ongoing journey of exploration, growth, and achievement. Now, let's take a closer look at some specific events and success that we have had in our trade journey in 2020 and 2021. Next, I'll introduce two events Invest Northern Ireland recently organized and participated to let you have a better picture of how can we work together. CSLP is the largest and most influential IVD exhibition in China. In August 2020, we organized a capability stand and represented 6 Northern Ireland diagnostic companies. Due to the travel restriction and impact of COVID, most Northern Ireland companies could not attend physically. We engaged on the ground with Randox and Glenbell diagnostics distributors, and during the exhibition, showcased all 6 participating companies' marketing materials and product videos. We received over 30 high-quality business leads on behalf of the companies, and as a result, despite the impact of COVID, CSLP 2020 had over 1,000 international and Chinese participant companies covering the entire industry chain. And as a result, despite the impact of COVID, CSLP 2020 had over 1,000 international and Chinese participant companies covering the entire IVD industry chain, more than 50,000 visitors, including manufacturers, hospitals, distributors, and professional scholars. In particular, Invest Northern Ireland's social media promotion on the official CSLP WeChat account included content from Northern Ireland companies and received over 15,000 impressions. The article was reposted by Invest NI official WeChat and industry media. As part of our ongoing continuous support, after CSLP, we followed up with all participant companies and continued introducing potential distributors and customers to them. Another exhibition I'd like to share with you is CMEF, China Medical Equipment International Fair, which took place in May this year. This is now the first time Invest Northern Ireland participated in this, the largest medical device event in China. In 2020, Invest Northern Ireland organized 3 Northern Ireland medical devices companies to participate virtually through webinars. Well, this year, we worked with 6 companies. Some are existing exporters and some are new to the market. To increase the impact of the event and create high-quality business leads for our companies, Invest NI collaborated with UK's DIT. We had a joint capability stand at the show to provide participant companies the opportunity to virtually interact with the audience. Invest Northern Ireland also co-organized a UK-China MedTech webinar with a number of stakeholders. Northern Ireland participant companies were then able to pitch their product and services to over 250 specially selected Chinese distributors and investors. CMEF 2021 was, as usual, fantastically well attended. there were over 110,000 professional visitors. Our stand was one of the most popular, and we received great interest from the industry. In addition to the 250 distributors mentioned above, we introduced a high-quality business list to the participants, which includes state-owned enterprises such as Sinopharma, Mexico, and Chinese leading e-commerce platforms such as JD.com and Alibaba. In terms of marcom, it's worth noting that our strategy garnered over 12,000 impressions in total. If you are considering China as your next export market, there are a number of key upcoming events organized by InvestNet during this financial year. Please come and join and start your business journey to China. We will have a stand at China Trial Summit from the 10th to the 12th November 2021 in Shanghai. The event is biopharma and in particular CRO focused, which will allow you to showcase the latest innovation to Chinese life and health sciences market and explore trade collaboration opportunities with Chinese counterparts. As previously mentioned, we are planning 3 life and health sciences subsector webinars, specifically focusing on medical devices, biopharma, and diagnostics. Meanwhile, we are expanding Invest Northern Ireland's strategic collaboration with Chinese leading medical and health groups to provide trade opportunities to our exporters. In addition, we intend to further develop life and health sciences trade journey by participating CECLP and CMEF in 2022 to secure success for more Northern Ireland life and health sciences companies in China. Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope you enjoyed the introduction of China's life and health sciences market and how Invest Northern Ireland can help your company. Should you have any question, please do not hesitate to contact us for more information. We would be pleased to learn more about your plans for your business in China and be part of your trade journey. Next, I'll give the floor to Dr. Jason McCowan, CEO of Neurovalence. Jason successfully established the Belfast-based medtech company, and he'll share his journey to Chinese market.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jason McKeown and I am the CEO of Neurovalence. And Neurovalence is a medical device company based in Belfast in the UK. And the background really of Neurovalence is that we have taken old implanted neurostimulation technology and made it entirely non-invasive. So with a non-invasive device, we can actually stimulate the deep parts of the brain, and that allows us to treat a wide range of diseases from mental health issues like insomnia and anxiety, right through to metabolic issues like pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. And whilst we are focusing on US FDA approval and to have prescription medical devices, we've also in parallel been looking at the Chinese market and perhaps a dual entry strategy there where potentially we can enter the Chinese market in some scenarios as consumer health technology and in other scenarios as prescribed medical devices. Neurovalence is really interested in the Chinese market, not just because it's such a massive market and a massive economic market, but if you look specifically at the health sector, that is a sector that is rapidly growing. However, I suppose even just due to it being quite new and due to perhaps translation and cultural differences, that's a market that's less understood than, say, the US or the EU markets when it comes to healthcare regulation. So whenever we reached out to InvestNI actually about engaging and focusing on the Chinese market, a really big point for us was looking at Chinese regulation around healthcare and bringing medical devices to market. An interesting consideration for Neurovalence products in the Chinese market is really whether or not they're actually prescribed medical devices or they would be considered as consumer health devices. And the reason for that is we make really non-invasive medical devices that are very, very low risk. So depending on the regulatory category, that might fall into a prescribed medical device, or it might be a direct-to-consumer health technology device, or actually in some cases almost a hybrid between the two. So entering into the Chinese market, obviously, because we didn't have much knowledge of that, we then reached out to InvestNI to really discuss that and actually to speak with distributors and advisors and actually the regulators themselves. And actually the answer came back that we could potentially enter the Chinese market under several different categories. So for example, a treatment for diabetes or pre-diabetes would be perhaps eventually a prescribed medical device, but a parallel and very similar device, but for sleep management or stress management, actually could be a direct-to-consumer device. So for us, that was a very exciting opportunity. And really then the next step was moving forward, finding distributors who were comfortable perhaps with e-commerce, direct-to-consumer sales, but also had experience in the medical device sector. Strategically, the focus for NeuroBalance to enter the Chinese market would really be with our consumer health technology. So as a start with the non-prescription devices, and how we intend to do that is actually collaborate with JD.com, specifically on their health platform that is designed for e-commerce. So what we've done is really register with JD.com, start to set up the store, but then we've also partnered with a local company or a third-party company in China who can help us manage and design the store, go through the regulatory processes, but then also handle future things like, say, customer cares or distribution agreements or returns or repairs or really just anything that is more focused with the Chinese individual who is using our device. So that's a big commitment from us. But we see this as a huge opportunity. And if you look at even pre-diabetes, for example, there are 500 million individuals in China with pre-diabetes. So the size of that market, for us, we just see that as such a big opportunity. And strategically, that is what we want to do as an initial step. But then looking a little further afield, what we would follow that with is actually then moving into, say, distribution into pharmacies or health clinics, and then eventually full medical device registration with the NMPA so that our devices can be prescribed by doctors in China. So I think for any small business, it can be a bit daunting perhaps to think of the Chinese market, but really having InvestNI working with you side by side is just a fantastic opportunity. And as a starting point, actually, for us, InvestNI provided a very comprehensive written report of the Chinese market, of things like the regulatory bodies, of distributors, of just the general healthcare ecosystem, I suppose, and also then maybe even suggestions as to who we might reach out to, who we might speak with, and suggestions also as to how we might structure the overall approach. Following that, then actually, whenever we wanted to enter or actually visit the Chinese market, InvestNI pretty much put a business trip together for us, and inside a week across several of the major cities in China, we were able to meet with over 25 different companies. Some of those were investors, some of those were distributors, some of those were regulatory advisors, right through even to government officials. And we were talking about strategy and perhaps even entering, what support is available for entering the Chinese market. And then on top of that, actually, if you were to, I suppose, break it down even further, it's not just a case that we met lots of people. Those groups were specifically matched to us. So every meeting was extremely relevant. It was extremely informative. And in the background, InvestNI had carried out a massive amount of research just to really make that trip extremely efficient for us. Even if you look across at things like, the background of the companies, many of these were Chinese companies related to the state or even state-owned companies. So the level of the people that you were speaking to was very high. These were decision makers. We really felt that we were getting a lot of value out of these meetings. And then right through even to e-commerce type platforms. So we met directly with JD.com. And we've actually maintained the relationship with JD.com going forward, and we intend to launch on the JD.com health platform that allows cross-border e-commerce. So in summary, really, I would just say, whilst you might be able to arrange some meetings in China, we would not have been able to have arranged all of those meetings across that range of really talented, informative individuals and companies that InvestNI had managed to really pull together to narrow down and just to make it such an efficient trip for us when we went to China. Overall, our experience with the introduction, I suppose, to the Chinese market has really been fantastic. A lot of that has been due to the help and support provided by InvestNI, and also even the help and support through InvestNI into the wider ecosystem, including the DIT and the guys at the UK embassies. So, it's really just been a fantastic experience overall. And I would suggest that any small company thinking about entering the Chinese market, first, do your own research and try and maybe narrow down just what your area of thinking is, and then reach out to Invest Northern Ireland and start the discussion, and really allow them to help and to guide you. Specifically, if you're thinking of moving or traveling out to China to meet these people, I think we had a great experience because we had lots of face-to-face meetings. One thing I would say is, having a InvestNI representative there who speaks Chinese is extremely helpful. Although most of the meetings that we had were in English, and they were really informative, really fantastic meetings. But sometimes even just culturally or something's being said, like a lot of our stuff's very technical, scientific, and it's very helpful just having a native Chinese speaker being able to explain that for you. One other thing I would say is, the Chinese market is vast. I think if a company feels that they are going to enter the Chinese market as a whole in one go, that's just a bit crazy. So I think you should really focus in on looking at maybe one city in particular or one area in particular, and really think about launching there or bringing the product into that area before then looking at scaling up. But again, as I said throughout the presentation, really that's InvestNI's forte. They can help you with that. So at the earliest stage possible, I would reach out to them and start a dialogue. So hopefully you found the presentation useful. Certainly Neurovalens, we are very excited about the Chinese market. We are so thankful to InvestNI for all the help and support that they have given us. And if you'd like to reach out to me or I can be of help in any way, then please feel free to do so. But I would really just hope that you can take the time to understand the Chinese market and really think about your strategy to enter the Chinese market. And I really just hope that that's a great success for everyone who goes ahead with that.
Thank you to Monica Wren from Invest Northern Ireland and Jason McKeown from Neurovalens for their presentations and for sharing their knowledge and experience of China's life and health science sector. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Now we'll hear from Colin Graham, Technical Advisor at the Invest Northern Ireland Technical Advisory Unit in Belfast. Colin brings extensive experience in providing intellectual property advice, financial support, and guidance to Northern Irish companies entering markets overseas, and will highlight how Invest Northern Ireland can help prepare your company for export success.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you all today. My name is Colin Graham, and I work in the Technical Advisory Unit within Invest Northern Ireland. Within that team, there's a mixture of engineers and scientists and people with an intellectual property background, and we aim to help mostly small and medium-sized companies with a variety of different problems, IP, product development, quality management systems, and others. But today is really primarily about intellectual property, so that's where I'm going to focus. Within the Technical Advisory Unit at InvestNI, we have some expertise in advising companies on the issues to look out for in different markets, but we're going to start off with the focus on China, obviously. But in general terms, we can provide advice and guidance on intellectual assets, intellectual property protection issues. So that ranges across patents, trademarks, design registrations, copyright, license agreements, and so on. We have the capability to do patent searches, both internationally and domestically, and trademark searches. And we have access to an international database where we can check on trademarks for companies free of charge within reason. We don't have an unlimited capacity to do that, but we can certainly do that for any companies where it may be helpful. We also can deliver intellectual asset audits. And that allows us to take a look at what intellectual assets a company may possess, look at the level of protection that they have on those, and see if that's appropriate and if it's providing coverage in the key important markets that you're dealing in. So it's worth pointing out, though, we're not legally qualified in intellectual property. We're not lawyers, but over the last 10, 15 years, we've certainly acquired considerable experience in helping small and medium enterprises, particularly with the appropriate way to handle intellectual property and intellectual asset challenges within their companies, both in the UK market and as they start their export journey. So most of our work would center on helping Invest in I client companies to register trademarks or patents in the UK and the EU, and also to quite a large extent in the US. But we have increasingly been involved in helping companies with intellectual asset registrations and issues in China, Japan, Indonesia, Australia, and the rest of the world, like South America and so on. We can also supplement our own knowledge and experience with linking people into some of the IP services companies that operate in Northern Ireland or beyond, and that can be helpful in letting people to access those services as they need them. So let me throw up to start with some basic issues to consider before we even focus on China itself. So we'll take one step backwards, as it were, and I'm going to pose the question, do you know within your company at present, is your intellectual property appropriately protected in the UK or within the EU, what you might consider your home markets? Because we've had examples in the past of people who thought that perhaps IP was only a big issue in China and didn't matter so much here. And obviously that isn't true. It's very important to have that base level of protection in your home markets in the UK and the Republic of Ireland, the rest of Europe. So I'll put that out there as a question. Do you understand what IP registrations you already have within your company? Does somebody have a list of those? Could they pull them out? Could they let us see when those expire, who you registered them with, what markets they're registered in? Are they purely logos? Or are they descriptive? What classifications do you have them in, perhaps? There's no doubt that more and more, especially for small companies, that intellectual assets are probably one of their key assets in the company. The intangible assets like that continue to be more and more important than physical assets as we work in a more knowledge-based economy. So I think it's important just to take that one step back. Do you know what IP you have currently in the UK and EU? And do you know the dates of expiry and all of those things? Having reassured ourselves on that, and you've reassured yourselves on that, the fact that you have a trademark in your home markets does not help you in China and has no legal value in China. Trademarks in particular are geographically registered. So if you have a UK trademark, it will not cover you in other countries, and certainly it won't cover you in China. So perhaps a good starting point would be to do some searching, perhaps with one of the IP attorneys. Is the trademark you're thinking about using in China, is it available? Does any other company have it? So I think that has to be the starting point. Is it available? As I said, we can do some of those searches for you if that's helpful. I think the one big point we want to make here is that it's very easy with the excitement of maybe looking at a business opportunity in China to think, let's go straight in there, let's do that. But the fact is, it can take up to 9 months or a year to register a trademark in China. So it's really important to think about this and to think about it at the earliest possible stage, and probably not when you're about to ship your first container of products to China. So please bear that in mind. The earliest point of thought about this is best. If you can think about it, up to 9-10 months ahead, that will be excellent. But obviously business issues take precedence, and sometimes that's not always possible. But do think about it at the earliest possible opportunity, and try to involve us or your IP advisors on checking, is the trademark you're thinking about available to register in that market. There is an issue that some people who are unfamiliar with selling into China may not be aware, and that's the fact that you can register English and Chinese language versions of your trademark. And sometimes that acts as a bit of a delay or a bit of a barrier, and people think that well, we're not quite sure how to typify our product or our trademark in a Chinese language, so therefore we won't do it. But the basic advice we'd give is, if you're in that situation, which is understandable, at least get on with registering the English language version of your trademark and get that underway. Some other basics I want to throw in here as well. There are major risks in that have happened in the past, and there's some nasty stories about how importers have perhaps maliciously registered trademarks in advance. So it's important to register the trademark in your company's name. It may initially feel easier to get somebody, your local importer or whatever, to register it, but that could be very counterproductive in the long run and could be difficult, could create big difficulties. In fact, if a relationship breaks down in the future, if the business or trading relationship breaks down, it may be difficult or indeed impossible to get the trademark back, and you may have to deal with the consequences of that, which could be at best difficult and at worst impossible, I think. So as I mentioned before, it's important to register the trademark before a brand enters into China. There is this risk that Chinese companies can register overseas brands, trademarks in a spiteful way before the brand enters into China, not to speak of those brands that already are in China. So as I say, get the English trademark registration process underway, even if you're not sure about the Chinese language version. It's common that some brands, as I say, may not know how to typify their brand name in Chinese, but don't worry about that. Get the English version registered, because the trademark is owned by whoever registers it first, and that process can take 9 months to 12 months. Also worth pointing out as well that domain name registrations may be important as well, and they're separate, so you do need to pay attention to those as well as getting trademarks. The good news, hopefully, for some people is if you're involved in the registration of a trademark in China or some of the other export markets, if you're an SME, there may be some help available from Invest in Northern Ireland to assist in that process. And to help towards that end, we use a scheme called Technical and Development Incentive, or TDI for short. That's only available to Invest in I clients, and you do have to be an SME, so in other words, employing 250 people or less in rough terms. That scheme can be used to help SMEs with things like product design, product approval, product compliance issues, and quality management systems. But quite often it is used for intellectual property and intellectual asset registrations. So for something like registering a trademark in China, it's a very well set up scheme and commonly used for that purpose. It can only be used for external third-party costs. It can't be used to assist with in-house costs that you may incur, but typically that works perfectly fine because you're dealing with an IP attorney either in the UK or locally engaged in China. We don't mind which it is from the point of view of the TDI scheme and the support there. Any offers on that scheme are subject to approval by your normal client executive, but it can cover 50% of the project costs up to certain limits. So I'll just talk through those limits because they're worth bearing in mind. You could have a maximum grant of £10,000 using TDI support, which is more than ample to cover both a trademark logo and a trademark word representation. So that would certainly be valuable. You can have a maximum of 2 live TDI grants available within a rolling 12-month period, subject to normal approvals by your client executive. So if you've used those 2 and other things already this year, then it may not be open to you. But otherwise, it's normally pretty straightforward to do. There is an online application process, so we can assess those applications electronically and normally turn them around and move towards issuing an offer within 2 weeks. And as I say, the supplier can be located here at home, or they could be in China or elsewhere. We don't particularly mind as long as they're a credible organization, and we will review the quote before we'll issue a link to the application form to you. So that kind of concludes the main things I wanted to say. I just wanted to highlight some of those key issues about thinking about your trademark and your intellectual property issues in China before you get there. And ideally start thinking about them 9 months to a year ahead as you plan your market entry. Be very careful about letting someone else register your trademark. The general advice is don't do that. Register it in your own name. It's by far the best way forward. And certainly for the SMEs in the audience, we can provide that Invest in I support to help the process and provide our advice and guidance on things like trademark searching as you go through this process. That kind of summarizes what I want to say and what I want to encourage you to think about this morning. If you would like to get in touch to discuss any of that, you can directly contact me on that email address, or my colleague Ian Wilkinson, who's the manager of the Technical Advisory Unit Invest in I. You can contact us on those email addresses, or by all means, you can make contact through your normal client executive if that's an easier process for you. Thanks for listening to me, and hopefully we'll be able to help a few of you with those inquiries, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you to Colin for a very insightful and informative presentation on intellectual property, advice and guidance. Our next speaker is Tingting Xu from the Confucius Institute at Ulster University. Tingting's presentation will highlight some of the important cultural considerations to be aware of and the common mistakes to avoid when doing business in China. Over to Tingting.
Good morning, everyone. First, thanks for Invest in Northern Ireland for inviting me to join in this seminar. I'm delighted to be able to deliver this session today. My name is Tingting, and I work for the Confucius Institute for Northern Ireland at Ulster University. And the topics I want to cover with you today are as follows. Business culture in China, which includes greetings, face and relationships, banquet and table manners, meetings, exchanging gifts, and lastly, business cards. And generally speaking, you can make a simple address and then shake hands with each other simultaneously with exchange of greetings, 你好, which means hello, then exchanging business cards. You are supposed to pay much attention to the time and strength when shaking hands. It is inappropriate to shake hands for too long or too short a time. 3 to 5 seconds is the best. And next slide, I will teach you how to say hello in Mandarin. Here, 你 means you, 好 means good. Together, 你好, which means hello. And when you say 你好, and the reply also 你好, 你好, 你好. And there are some tips when greeting others. In China, greet others by using handshake or not, and do address similarities by the honorific title, their family relationship, for example, teacher, 老师, or by the family name plus Mr. 先生, Miss, 女士, and do address the eldest or most senior person first. This is done as a sign of respect to those in a more senior position. As for the concept of low context cultures and high context cultures, which were first introduced by the anthropologist Edward T. Hall in his 1959 book, The Silent Language. And the low context culture values efficiency, time, directness, honesty, clarity, and understanding. As for the high context culture, which values body language, storytelling, saving face, rules of politeness, and relationship. As Chinese belong to high context culture, which values relationship. And relationship, 关系, is closest to connections, networks, and relationship. Chinese people attach greater importance to the social relationships than the commercial relationship when doing business. 关系 means to establish personal trust and a strong relationship with your partner, and can involve frequent visits and plenty of socializing. 关系is your social capital within your network. Concepts like friends before business means you develop friendship before the business, because if you don't have friends, the business won't be there anyway. And the reciprocal nature of 关系 is the main reason why Chinese are reticent to engage in deeper relationships with people they do not know. 关系 is hard to establish, but lasts long. It is a core trait of Chinese mentality. And as a foreigner, understanding what is meant by faith can mitigate a culture shock. It can also help with relationship building between yourself and your Chinese colleagues. Faith can be described as a combination of social standing, reputation, influence, dignity, and honor. A giving faith is crucial when it comes to do business in China. If you give Chinese faith, for the most part, what you receive in return is much greater. And no faith means disrespect or losing faith. And throughout a Chinese person's life, faith must be maintained and enhanced through giving to and receiving from others in both words and actions. And here are some tips for giving faith. Praising someone publicly, especially in front of their elders or boss, and giving sincere compliments and showing that you are enjoying yourself when being treated out. And the next part is also very important, which is a banquet. It is a channel for conducting business deals, although the practice varies depending on where you are and who you are dealing with. And by and large, most Chinese banquet tables are round, and you will have a meal in a private room with harmonious and polite atmosphere. And for the traditional dining etiquette, if you are the guest, wait to be seated, as hierarchy is involved. And eating usually begins when the host offers the first drink. When helping yourself to the dishes, you should take food first from plates in front of you rather than those in front of others. And here's a tip for you. Do not stick chopsticks vertically into your food, especially not into rice, as this will make Chinese think of funerals. And drinking toast, but light, not respond, but light, but respond toasts. And here are the seating orders. The most important person sit the number 1. And the second most important person sits number 2. And the third most important person sits number 3. And here also a picture for you. And for the chopsticks, which are called 筷子 in Chinese, while eating, watch to see if other diners are using their own chopsticks to take shared food, or if there is a spoon that is used to take the food from the communal dishes. And here are some taboos for the using of chopsticks during the meal. And do not knock on the bowl with chopsticks, and do not cross the chopsticks, and don't point your chopsticks at others. And also do not stick in the rice, which I mentioned just now. And during the banquet, there are several toasts, and say 干杯 when toasting others to signify cheers. And locally produced wines or baijiu, which is strong liquor, are the usual drinks for toasts. And for formal dinner, the host will make a speech and toast. If there is a toast, remember each person's status in the hierarchy. And when delivering a toast, it's customary to stand and use both hands to hold your glass or cup, and it is respectful to dip the tip of your glass below that of the person you are toasting. And here are the etiquette for the meeting. The first is be punctual, which means you must be on time. Arriving late considered rude. If you do arrive late, apologizing for your tardiness is a must. If we are hosting the meeting, it's proper etiquette to send the representative to greet the meeting's participants outside the building or in the lobby, and then personally escort them to the meeting room. And as for the seating arrangements at Chinese business, And the seating is typically arranged by rank. And the clothes dress formally. And here's the formal meeting. And next, I want to talk about is about how to exchange gifts. It's a big part of any culture, and the ideal gift need not to be big or expensive. It should, however, be something that the recipient will appreciate. And when you receiving the gift, do you present with both hands and receive things with both hands? And this is considered polite in Chinese culture. And do you give the small items that are typical from your own region? And do not wrap gifts using black or white wrapping paper. Choose festive colors such as red instead, and do not over packaging. Don't gift clocks or other symbolic items. And clocks and things are related to the number 4 are associated with death in China. Don't give the umbrellas, knives, scissors to your friends because this imply the severing of a relationship. And also do not expect that a gift will be opened immediately. And the last tip is that never give a green hat to a gentleman because it implies the association with adultery. And finally, I want to talk about how to exchange business cards. Here, my business cards, there are 2 sides. The first side is in English, and the other side is in Mandarin or in Chinese. And about the etiquette of handling business cards, using a thumb and forefinger of both hands to hold the 2 corners at the top of the business card. And the front of the business card faces the other person. Here's a picture for your reference. Okay, that's all for my lecture today. Thank you for listening. 再见.
Thank you, Ting Ting. That was wonderful. I've lived in Asia for over 2 decades, and I can attest to the importance of familiarizing yourself with the culture. I hope we can all look forward now to putting these lessons into practice. A big thanks to all our speakers today. I hope you enjoyed the conference and have got a taste for the opportunities in China. You've met our staff and you know that we are here to help you as you consider your options. If you have any questions or want any assistance exploring opportunities, please contact us. Email us at shanghai@investnorthernireland.com. Now to sign off, I'm going to leave you with a really moving video. At the start of the pandemic, a relationship was formed between Millburn Primary School and Coleraine, who recorded a song in Mandarin for the Chinese people, who were at that time the first to experience COVID-19. Invest Northern Ireland's summer song worked with Chongqing Depu Foreign Language School, who recorded this after receiving messages of support from Northern Ireland. The video we're going to show you is, in essence then, the reply to that song, from China to Northern Ireland.
Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. Tis you must go and I must buy. But come you then when summer's in the meadow, or when am dead, as dead I will may be. I pray you'll find the place where I am lying, and safe, and I lay there for me, and I shall hear the soft dew tread upon me, and all my grace shall almost whisper me that you will near, whisper that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you comes to me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
We are the one, we stay together.
We are the one, we stay together.
We are the one, we stay together.
Best wishes to Melbourne Primary School, to Northern Ireland and to UK.